Welcome back in Season 2, Episode 2 of the Sports Information Podcast. I'm your host, Hopkins, the Sports Information Director. Welcome to the Sports Corner. We're here. We are in mid-season form already, let me tell you, okay? Week 1 recap, we're 11-5 through 1 week. Through 16 games, we got 11 right. That's a hot start. If your favorite NFL team wins 11 games this year, you'd say they had a great season. And they're making the playoffs. So I'm making the playoffs and picks, baby. And then we got a week 2 picks and predictions. And then we got must-see TV. And then we got spreads for the week because we got that back on the board for you guys. Super excited about that. And then we're going to do producer questions. And we don't have listener questions yet because you guys haven't thrown anything in the comments. Guys, get active. Sports consumers, sports information consumers, get active in the comments, please. Make the show a little more entertaining, at least for your sake. Anyway, don't even have to be questions, actually. It can be comments, too. You got disagreeing opinions with mine? Cool. Speak your piece. We'll read it online, even if it sounds dumb. Pardon me. Sorry, I'm a little thrown off. This is our third take on the evening. Phone keeps saying storage is full. All right, Week 1 recap. 11-5. We missed the Chiefs and Chargers game. Chargers took that one. We missed the Colts and Dolphins game. Colts took that one. Raiders at Patriots. We picked the Patriots. That was a bad pick. Ravens at Bills. We picked the Ravens. We said we hope we're wrong. We were wrong. Kind of a win. Not on the stat sheet. And then Bears-Vikings, Monday Night Football. I was right for 3 quarters. And then that fourth quarter was just electric by J.J. McCarthy and the Vikings. So we'll dive on into all that right now. Starting with Dallas at Philly on Thursday night, first game of the year. What a start. What a start. Few key takeaways. Dallas, you looked a lot better than I thought you were gonna. Defense looked as bad as I thought it was gonna for sure. And that run defense is still non-existent. But your offense, your O-line gave Dak a ton of protection, gave a lot of good lanes and runways for your running back to get through. Javonte Williams picked up about 4 or 5 yards of carry. I mean, the man was on fire. And then Dak looked solid. Dak looked really good. Philly, y'all are crazy. Y'all are crazy. First, shout out and, best recovery wishes to the man who got injured on the very first play of the game. That's disheartening. You hate to see that. Kickoff, first one of the year, you go down with an injury. Horrible. I haven't read any reports. I don't know if it was a long recovery or if it was just an overnight thing or a week-to-week, day-to-day, what it was. Prayers up for you, dude. But the rest of the game for Philly was wild because your best defensive player, Jalen Carter, starts his first play, didn't even get to play his first play, by spitting on the other team's quarterback who also happens to be the league's highest paid player. Bonkers. Ridiculous behavior, bozo behavior, stamp of disapproval. I hope Jalen Carter has a bad season because that's wild. There's no place for that in sports. You don't spit on another human being. You'd never do that in the real world because you'd go to jail or you'd catch a charge worth a lot more than $57,000 and 1 game suspension. And effectively, he got suspended for 1 game. That's why they're not suspending him further, which is, in my opinion, too light of a penalty. I know I'm in the minority on that. A lot of people would say, no, he got what he deserved according to the league standards, whatever. Maybe the league needs new standards because you just spit on another human dude. And Schottenheimer, coach of the Cowboys, if I'm him, I'm having a conversation with my O-line after that. Protect your quarterback. Protect your quarterback. Cool that you all kept level heads. Cool that you all got to play. You still lost the game anyway. So if we're going to go out there and lose the game after that, protect your quarterback so we have an excuse to lose the game. Just like Philly had an excuse if they would have lost. Momentum and morale was killed right away by stupid decisions, and we lost our best defensive player, so we lost. That didn't happen, so they didn't have to pull that card. Instead, they got to get some extra brownie points and say we won in spite of, right? And that's more of Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley, mostly Jalen Hurts than anything, based on what they were able to do and just their leadership qualities and the way they kept that team together. But Philly is ridiculous, and the O-line Nobody's stepping up to protect Dak. And hell, Dak even not protecting himself is crazy. Myles Garrett's still in the league after swinging a helmet for a far less offense. You got spit on, dude. You got no business fighting Jalen Carter, but you swing that helmet, you maybe got a chance. And you got to defend yourself if you get spit on like that. In any case, that's crazy. I would be dead if Jalen Carter spit on me because I'm punching him and then he's going to kill me. Just to be clear. Right after that, Chiefs-Chargers. I mean, we were wrong. The Chiefs didn't look like the Chiefs that we've seen over the course of the last 4 or 5 seasons. That defense and that pass rush was not what it usually is. The offense looked iffy in spots, but it also looked solid in spots. Mahomes looked like Mahomes. I'm not worried about him, but for one of the first times in a good while that I can remember, I'm concerned that the Chiefs won't be that 11-win powerhouse. They might drop to 10 wins. Or 12-win powerhouse. Sorry, they always win 12 games. They might drop to 10 wins, right? They might lose 2 more games than they should this year, just based on if that defense can't pick it up. Chargers looked great. Justin Herbert played the best game of his career, and he and Harbaugh are ahead of schedule as far as I'm concerned. I said it's going to take a little bit more than preseason and training camp for them to make magic really happen. They're already making it happen. I mean, they found a way to get Quentin Johnston 2 touchdowns after he was awful last year. Ladd McConkey looked fine. The rest of that offense was buzzing. The defense looked sharp. Chargers are a must-watch team for the rest of the year. Starting off on Sunday, we had Tampa Bay at Atlanta. Dead right about Tampa. They're winning 10 games at least this year. They looked good and fine without their left tackle, Tristan Wirfs. Their starting left tackle, that is. And when he comes back, they're going to be fine. Egbuka is a smash hit. Perfect fit for that system as well. Great draft pick. Tampa's legit. Atlanta looks pretty all right as well. They could be a team to watch. They could also be a team that kind of just middles the whole way, right? Winning 9, 8 games, maybe even dropping to like 7 wins if the wheels fall off a little bit. But I don't see them losing, 12, 13 games by any stretch. Las Vegas at New England, another one we were wrong on. We took the Patriots, and they just didn't look like I thought they would. That O-line looked better than it did last year for sure, but not quite as good as I thought it was going to. Travion Henderson wasn't as effective as I thought he would be immediately, and they clearly don't trust Drake May to fully run that offense yet. They weren't. That was evident by the play call, the play design, the game plan. Las Vegas, though, man, Geno Smith standing in the pocket, taking hits, throwing darts, looked electric. What did he? What do I've got over here? What did he end that game with? He led the game in passing yards. Yeah, 362 passing yards. Man was on fire, dishing it left and right, up the middle. Didn't matter. Geno Smith and Pete Carroll are definitely going to revive the Raiders significantly this year. They're doubling their win total from last year. Book it. Cincy at Cleveland. Cincy, you guys are going to be a tough watch this year. You're going to have a tough time this year. Your O-line can't protect anything. Your defense doesn't look much better than the Cowboys. And you guys got out-yarded, outproduced by the Browns. And you still walked away with the win because you're a better team than the Browns, as you should be, but barely, and that's concerning. And the Browns, they're the Browns. They look bad. They look like the stuff in the toilet that's brown. Arizona at New Orleans, 20-13. Scrolled up a little too far there. Never a doubt. Arizona didn't look good by any stretch, but they didn't look horrible. New Orleans looks bad. Pittsburgh at New York. That was a fun one. Aaron Rodgers revenge game. New York Jets grudge match. 2-point game. Never a doubt that Mike Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers were going to find a way to get a Week 1 win. Never a doubt in my mind. Aaron Rodgers had 244 passing yards And then the Jets, I mean, they looked solid compared to what we thought they were going to look like for sure, but I don't think they keep that up. I don't think Justin Fields and Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson are the holy trinity of New York now. But we'll see. Maybe they'll find a way to win 8-9 games. We'll see. Breece Hall looked a lot better than he has in the past, but will he be consistent this year? We'll find out. Miami at Indy. I was in the building for that electric game. Let me tell you, it was a lot more about Miami being horrible and a lot worse than we thought than it was about the Colts being magnificent and a lot better than we thought. The Colts were every bit of excellent. A++ game. Defense was on fire. Only thing that didn't get going really was the run, and that's because Jonathan Taylor didn't have the ball in his hand as much, especially on some of those goal line carries because of Daniel Jones' rushing ability. And Shane Steichen, as we know, likes to utilize rushing quarterbacks or at least improvising quarterbacks' abilities. Daniel Jones isn't going to lead our offense to a score on every drive for the remainder of the season. Okay, so we got to temper those expectations, and we got to do that now. We got to do that early. Because the Colts are already doing what I said would be my worst nightmare. They're filling me with hopium that we're going to go win our division this year and make the playoffs, and that would be the most Indianapolis Colts thing ever to do after bringing in a guy like Daniel Jones, who's been horrible all of his career. But my God, we might do it. And then we're going to end up with a or a bad draft pick, late mid-round or late-round draft pick, not draft a quarterback, be stuck with Daniel Jones for the next 3 to 4 years, and he's going to be nothing but awful after this year. That's our luck as a Colts fan base. Great first game to see. Had hella fun heckling the Dolphins fans around me. But now that is a thought and a scenario in my head that keeps me up at night. Wrong on the pick. Fine being wrong because I got to watch my team win. No, I do not think the Colts are going to look like that or even 70% of that for the rest of the season. I think it'll be ebbs and flows. I think there will be moments where we look really good. I think there could be some games against some decent teams this year, even next week against Denver at home. We could look pretty solid again. But I'm going to hold firm on my preseason pick that we're probably going to finish 3rd or 4th in the division. And it's just not. Like Daniel Jones isn't our answer. And that's going to show this year rather than the situation I just explained where it shows next year. Las Vegas at New England. No. Carolina at Jacksonville. Carolina looks bad. Bryce Young looks sad and bad. And Jacksonville looked pretty solid. They could be better, but they looked pretty solid. Trevor Lawrence, 178 passing yards. We'd love to see you above 200, my guy. You should be most games above 200. ETN Jr. had 143 rushing yards, though. Didn't see that one coming. I don't even think that his own team saw that coming because of how he looked last year. And then the receivers for Jacksonville obviously didn't do a whole lot. Tedero McMillan for the Panthers, he led the game in receiving yards with 68. So, got the game right. Carolina looks bad, maybe a little worse than I thought they were going to look based on how they ended last season. Thought they were kind of going to eke up just a touch. I didn't think they were going to be really good by any stretch, but thought they'd at least look on part of how they finished the season, and they looked worse. Tennessee at Denver. Man. Oh, I'm just jumping around. I got 2 different lists here. New York at Washington. Giants. Woof. That's going to be a tough year for you guys. The Commanders, I think, probably finish a little worse than they did last year in terms of how far they go. They might have a similar record, but I don't know. I think last year was a huge hit, obviously, and I think this year is going to be a small step back, kind of 2 steps forward last year, take 1 step back this year, and then maybe next year you take another 2 steps forward. But we'll see if Ja'Cory Carski-Merritt can keep up his electric playmaking ability. We'll see if Deebo Samuel stays consistent. I don't trust it. Jaden Daniels is obviously still amazing. Jaden Daniels, good 21-6 win. Got the pick right. San Francisco at Seattle. Nailed it. Got the pick right. Wow, both teams look tough. Brock Purdy's got some gunslinger in him where he's going to go out there and make some silly throws and some silly mistakes because he's overconfident in his ability. Seattle, you're just going to struggle this year, guys. I don't know what to tell you. And Christian McCaffrey's still awesome when he's healthy. And the San Francisco 49ers wide receiver room is maybe as big of a mess as the Kansas City Chiefs. Tennessee at Denver. Cam Ward, man. Listen, all offseason I was saying he wasn't being talked about enough. He wasn't being talked about enough. He wasn't being talked about enough. And he's still not being talked about enough. Most quarterbacks, good or bad game, who are number one draft picks, get talked about after that first game quite a bit. I get there's other exciting quarterbacks and topics and people to talk about, but we talk about those guys all the time anyway. Let's give one day to Cam Ward, please. And the slinging the ball 50 miles an hour, 500 miles an hour, sorry, every time. Like, he's slinging that thing. Maybe he needs to ease up on that. Ease up a little bit. Kind of put a little more finesse on some of these passes sometimes, some touch passes here and there. But the Titans look tough as well. So it's going to be an interesting year for Cam Ward. And I just need more media attention on him because I don't know. Maybe it's a good thing because he'll be able to play with a little less pressure on his shoulders this year. But I want to hear more about Cam Ward, and I want to learn more about this situation in Tennessee because I bet Will Levis is kind of looking at things now like, see what I had to deal with? See, the coaching, the coordinator, it's not good over there. But I want to see if Cam Ward can bring some positive light to a bad situation. And I want to hear the media's opinion on that week in, week out. Doesn't have to be day in and day out, but week in, week out. The Broncos look solid except for Bo Nix. Bo Nix looked shaky. Bo Nix looked like the question mark I thought he would be. Last year was a huge boom season for him. I'm not calling a bust season this season, but I am definitely on board with this season's going to be worse than last by 6 or 7 spots as to where he finishes in quarterback rankings this year, for sure. Based on numbers, based on eye test, based on all that. But the Broncos are still going to be a tough beat week to week. Detroit at Green Bay, nailed it. Got Green Bay right. Detroit looks a lot worse than they have over the last 2 years, and that's worrisome. And that's just a big testament to how important these coordinators are nowadays. Losing your center is a huge blow, and that pressure up the middle is going to affect Jared Goff all year long. Green Bay's defense, however, looked like what we thought the Chiefs' defense probably was going to look like. An aggressive pass rush. Big, confident, just chest out defense, man. Like, all in your face all day long. You got to see us kind of mentality. And they sure did the damn thing. And Micah Parsons looks great. So I'm sure Green Bay's ecstatic right now. They've got to feel like they're on top of the world. Houston at LA. Matt Stafford is that dude. He looked awesome. He was incredible. I know the scoreboard doesn't show it, but 245 passing yards. Puka had 130 receiving yards. Shout out that boy. He also had 10 catches on 11 targets or something silly. So, I mean, just an outstanding game for Stafford and the Rams. The defense is young and fiery. Houston looked shaky as well. So that preseason pick about the Jags winning the division, stock up on that one. Stock going up there. Feeling more and more comfortable with that. And then Baltimore at Buffalo. I mean, guys, said the Ravens were going to win. The Ravens should have won. It's another game that I was right through three quarters. Lamar, Harbaugh, and those damn Ravens just always find a way to lose games. They're not a find a way to win team. They're a find a way to lose team. They find a way to blow leads and lose games with late game penalties that are just silly and ignorant. And This one had a happenstance mistake with a Derrick Henry fumble, which doesn't happen statistically almost ever. And it just comes to show you that against a guy like Josh Allen, against a guy like Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, that level of quarterbacks, you can't make a single mistake. And they paid for it because Josh Allen's that dude. I mean, he had 131 passer rating in the fourth quarter, like 166 passing yards or something silly, 3 total touchdowns, passing and rushing combined. He's Superman, guys. He really is Superman. And if he was on the Chiefs, we'd talk about him like Patrick Mahomes and, oh my God, like that. He is as talented as Mahomes at this point, in my mind. In my mind's eye, he's as talented as Mahomes with what he can do on the football field. He's just a touch less consistent, I think, in big spots. But that might be taking a turn because he is really risen to the occasion these last few times he's been out in big spots, even when his team's gotten outplayed and come up short, like in last year's playoffs. But, man, what a crazy Sunday night football game. And then Monday night football, Minnesota at Chicago. Wrong on that one, But, again, right through 3 quarters, J.J. McCarthy went out and had a baller fourth quarter, comeback win, and Caleb started out hot, 10 for 10, and then the wheels came off, and he started making some immature pre-snap mistakes, decisions, some really gotta have layups, like easy layups, wide open layups, just smoking them. Picture perfect, dialed up to a T by coach, and just whiffed. But Ben Johnson looks like he's the real deal at coach. I just hope that he and Caleb can get it figured out because he was visibly frustrated with his quarterback on the sideline this past weekend or this past week, earlier this week. And if your coach is on camera wincing and gritting his teeth at mistakes that your quarterback makes, it's just not a good look, and that's going to show up and affect the team in the locker room and in film and in practice, and it's going to just trickle through the whole rest of the season. So Bears fans definitely have a lot to be satisfied with from last season to this season, but they've still got enough things to be concerned about. All right, stepping into week 2 here. Let's look at these picks. Let's look at this schedule. We've got the spread pulled up as well, so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about teams being favored. Should they be? Should they not be? And let's get these ads off the screen because we're not into that. We're not here to free advertise. Thursday night. That'll be tonight for you all. Washington at Green Bay. Green Bay is a 3.5-point favorite. I think that's right. Green Bay looked, and you know what? It's week 1, so I'm allowed to be a little too high on some of these teams, and I'm allowed to be a little overreactive to some of these games. Green Bay looked awesome in week 1. I think a 3.5-point spread is right. I think Washington probably loses, maybe even by a full touchdown. And, man, it's just tough because that receiver room for Washington, it could be more. The spread might need to be higher. That receiver room is just so shaky. The drama with Terry McLaurin, that's never good at the beginning of the season. Can Debo be consistent? Do you guys have an actual answer at running back? And can that be consistent throughout the season? Because you might have an answer. Krosky Merritt might be a legit rookie, but he still might not be a consistent rookie this year. And that's going to hurt and affect Jaden Daniels' ability to be able to play make at the level that he needs to in order for you guys to win games. So I'm going to go with Green Bay here in week 2. Chicago and Detroit. All right, we've got a week 2 must-win matchup for both teams here. You can't start 0-2 in your division. Detroit can't play like they did 2 weeks in a row. Chicago's got to clean up some stuff effective immediately. If not the pre-snap stuff, if not the missing the layups, then you definitely can't lead the league in penalties in week 2. That will not fly. And you'll lose, even if Detroit plays bad. You got to clean up one of those 3 areas in week 2, effective immediately if you're going to win this game. It's in Detroit. However, Detroit -6 on the spread. Wow. So a full touchdown favorite here. 2 field goals. Oh, this might be our first big dog we pick of the year because Chicago looked a whole lot better than Detroit did in week 1, even with their mistakes. And I've got faith in Ben Johnson and the staff he's put together just based on the improvements I saw. I think a lot of the pre-snap stuff can be fixed. So I'm going to go with Chicago again in week 2. If I get burned, it's going to be really hard for me to pick Chicago games moving forward because I'll be skeptical. New York Giants at Dallas. New York doesn't have a chance. Because, they don't have a chance. I mean, they just don't. Dallas -5.5. I'd probably book that as well. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, New York doesn't have a good enough run defense to really eat up the a run offense to eat up the Dallas run defense like they need to be able to make that a 2.5 point spread. So, that sounds right. Cleveland at Baltimore. Cleveland has no chance here. Baltimore by 1 million. I hope I don't have to explain much more on that. San Francisco at New Orleans. I'm probably going to fade New Orleans every week. It's going to be tough for me to pick against them unless they're playing a team like, I don't know, Miami. So, again, another team that lost in week 1 that I'm going to ride with again in week 2, New England. New England is going to beat Miami. Miami looked that bad. Drake May's going to bounce back a bit. I'm a believer. I think Travion's going to show up a lot more than he did. And, guys, when I tell you Miami looked that bad in week 1, it wasn't just like the offense looked bad, but the defense was all right, or vice versa. It all sucked. Every bit of that team, every bit of that, their play calling, Tua's decision making, the chemistry between him and Tyreek, it's gone. Everything was abysmal and worrisome if you're a Dolphins fan, or if you're the owner of the Dolphins. You're definitely looking at Mike McDaniels like, buddy, you might not be here middle of the season. You might not be here. You definitely might not be here next season. So, New England. Jacksonville at Cincy. Hardest game of the week for me to pick. Cincy's a 3.5 point favorite. I think the spread is too much. I think Joe Burrow finds a way to beat Trevor Lawrence. I think the spread is too high. I think Joe Burrow finds a way to beat Trevor Lawrence in week 2 at home. I don't have much more than that. And I don't feel 100% confident in that, but I feel more confident in saying that than I do in saying that Trevor Lawrence is going to win. So I do think Brian Thomas Jr. will show up a lot more in week 2, but maybe not enough. The Rams at Tennessee, the Rams are going to smoke them. 5.5 point favorites on the road. That just tells you how bad the Titans are. Right there. There you go. Wow. They might be considered the worst team in the league with that being the case. No. Jets are considered worse for sure. And the Bills are considered better than the Rams. So we'll get to that. Seattle at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh 3-point favorite at home. I'd say that's probably a little low. That might even be a little low. Give me Pittsburgh at home for sure. Buffalo at New York Jets. You're going to make me say it? Okay. Buffalo. Carolina at Arizona. Arizona's going to walk away with a win there. 6.5 point favorites. Sounds right. Could be less, though, because like I said, Arizona didn't look impressive on any front, but they didn't look bad. So, Denver at Indy. Listen, I was talking yesterday, And it feels wrong in any case, okay? Taking the horseshoes off my shirt for a minute. Take down the Colts props. Forget about this legend right here on the wall. It feels wrong to pick against a team that scored on every drive, got a defensive touchdown, and won 33-8 at home in week 1. It feels wrong to pick against that team at home again in week 2. However, after tempering my expectations, tempering my excitement, coming down from the high of being in the Loud House at Lucas Oil with Pat McAfee in the building and Edgerrin James giving a weak-ass whack on the anvil, broke my heart because that's my childhood running back hero. I've come down from the peak. And as much as I want to pick the Colts here, because Bo Nix even looked shaky, that Denver defense is going to make Daniel Jones' life a lot harder than the Miami Dolphins did. Just is. And Shane Steichen, as much as I believe in you, as much as I believe that Jonathan Taylor is going to have more yards and a better running game than he did in week 1, that's not enough. That's not enough. And the Denver offense is still good. And they still put up 20 points in a game where their quarterback looked questionable. So give me Denver. Pains me to say it. Roll horse. I'm sorry. I just can't. Okay? And 2.5-point favorites, yeah. They're winning by more than a field goal. Philly at KC. Super Bowl rematch. At KC, though. Philly's a 1.5-point favorite. Wow. This has got to be our must-see TV game. I mean, it's the Super Bowl rematch. The Chiefs had a tough week 1 game. They're definitely going to bounce back. That defense is going to come alive. Just believe it, all right? We know what Spagnuolo is as a coordinator and a play caller. We know who Andy Reid is as a play caller. But more importantly, on the defensive end, we know Chris Jones is that dude, and he's going to find a way to make some plays happen. And Trent McDuffie's a stud. I mean, what's not to like there? Philly, if Jalen Carter doesn't spit on anybody, your defense should be dominant. Shouldn't have a hard time getting pressure on Mahomes because that O-line is kind of patchwork still. And they got a young left tackle, kind of inexperienced. He played big-time college football, but he hasn't played any NFL football yet outside of week 1 and preseason. And Saquon looks great. He made some really clutch plays all throughout the game, some great catches, including a one-handed catch that he reeled in. He had a couple of runs where it looked like nothing there, and he squeaks out 4 yards somehow. Jalen Hurts is that guy. He's top 5 quarterback in the league this year. Can't tell me otherwise. Give me Philly in week 2 at KC. I think it's going to be a great game. I think Philly finds a way to walk away with that win. Atlanta at Minnesota. Wow, hold on. I'm second guessing myself on the Philly pick. Nope, I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to ride with it. We're going to strap the seatbelt. Philly's going to win. Atlanta at Minnesota. Monday Night Football. Give me Minnesota. Okay. J.J. McCarthy looked horrible for those first 3 quarters, but he woke up in that 4th quarter. He woke up. He's here. He rose to the occasion. There's no way he's that bad again the whole game, or hopefully any of the game against Atlanta. And Atlanta's just not as good of they're not as of a complete team as Minnesota is. That Minnesota defense, the secondary's awesome. And they got Jettas, which they've got London, but I mean, Kevin O'Connell and his D coordinator, I forget his name. Oh, it's going to kill me. I got to look that up now. So, my internet went out. How is everything still up? That doesn't make any sense. Whatever. Jump down to Monday, September 15th. We've got Tampa Bay at Houston. Give me Tampa. Houston looks bad. I hope they continue to be bad, especially as a Colts fan. and for the sake of my Jags to win the division pick. And Tampa's going to win 10 games. That's going to be one of them. Baker looks electric. Houston's favored. Crazy. Fade it. LA versus LV in LV. LA is a minus 3.5 point favorite. Yeah, I'd say that's probably a little low even. I know it's a divisional game, but Harbaugh and Carroll have yet to play each other, unless they played each other last year, but they've yet to play each other within the division for sure. So there's not a lot of known tendencies there. There's not a lot of history between the two. And I just think the Chargers looked that good. They're going to get it done. Brian Flores, that's the Vikings coordinator, and he is phenomenal. He's a top guy in the league for sure as well. So yeah, those are our picks. Like I said, the must-see TV game. It's got to be the Super Bowl rematch, and if it's not, well, they under-delivered. 3 teams to definitely cover the spread this week. Let's go back down this list real quick here. Give me, Dallas seems like a really good one, but give me San Francisco, definitely covering the spread. Give me the Rams to definitely cover the spread. And give me Josh Allen to cover the spread against the Jets. Those are your safe picks for the week. We are jumping in over to producer questions now. Let's rock.
Okay, first let's talk about the 49ers again. Obviously, they scraped by the Seahawks in week 1. But do you think Christian McCaffrey can, take the bulk of the offensive load, now that George Kittle's out? Do you think he can carry basically the whole offense on his back? Because personally, I don't think Brock Purdy is much more than a glorified game manager. He doesn't win you games. He just puts you in positions for other players to win you games.
Definitely.
So, do you think McCaffrey can carry that?
Assuming health, yeah, because we've seen him do it, right? With Kittle out, it's going to be a little tougher, and with the receivers being so questionable, it's going to be a lot tougher because they know that run is going to be a lot more dependent on, they being the other team's defenses. However, this season, I don't feel comfortable saying yes because of the injury that he's been having, that calf injury, that calf strain. We know what that turns into, knock on wood. So it's worrisome, man. And putting that much pressure on a guy in that position is just not a recipe for success. So I'm going to say no. He's not going to be able to shoulder the load needed to get them to, top of the division and in the playoffs. What's next?
I'm with you. Switching up, not for a specific team, really any team, kind of all of them, I guess. But I saw an article on NFL.com, I think, that this week was the highest week since 2010, sorry. This was the highest amount of return kickoffs through any week since 2010. At 75.6%. One, I just think that stat deserves some love, but what are your opinions on the new kickoff rules? Now that we've seen it in action for a little while, we've got a couple off seasons to think about it. But do you think that's gonna translate to college ball, or just what are your overall opinions on it?
I think changing the kickoff was one of the better things the NFL's done in the last decade. Seeing kicks just go out of bounds all the time. The questions of why do we even have this in the game anymore were so valid. I don't know why, but I still don't love how close they start together. That part sucks. But the excitement has definitely increased, and the need for a return guy is a real thing. So you're going to see salaries for those guys go up, especially when the elite ones emerge. You're going to see more guys getting rostered, and at least chances to be rostered, because they're going to be drafted or they're going to be picked up as a free agent after the draft or whatever, to go through a training camp run and see if they're worth being on the roster for return sakes. So special teams guys, stock up, excitement in those moments of the game up. All around, it's a good decision.
I agree with you. Moving over to the Giants. Personal opinion, I'm pretty high on Jackson Dart. One, because he's in my fantasy league on my dynasty squad, so I kind of need him to turn into something good for me, especially soon. But I think that appearance might come sooner than later. I mean, especially after Russ's week 1 performance. But do you think if Russ underperforms again this week, that we might see that Jackson Dart appearance a little bit sooner?
Definitely. Especially with, Malik Neighbors being so visibly frustrated on the sidelines. And Dayball is a smart enough coach and a good enough coach to recognize that, hey, this isn't working out. We've got to move on. We've got to move on quick. And you don't want to take a quarterback in the first round and not know if that guy can play heading into another really good quarterback draft class. Or I'm not even going to say another, just a really good quarterback draft class, because last year's wasn't. So, and you don't, that's just not recipe for success. And I think regardless of who they play, Dart or us, they're not going to have a good record. They're going to have a good enough draft pick to pick a quarterback next year. So you got to play him. So yeah, Russ has another bad week. I think we see Dart sooner than week 6. Russ has an okay week. I think the deadline still gets extended to past week 6. So we'll find out, but I'm going to fade Russ this week for sure.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. Who do they play again?
They play the Commanders.
Yeah. I don't think they got a shot in that one, to be quite honest with you. Last thing I got, we touched on it a little bit last year. I can't remember exactly what week we did. But I'm a big believer in like the NFL expanding into other countries. Like obviously they have like the NFL Europe, programs where kids can go and play and, get some really good experience and knowledge from, past NFL guys. But what are your opinions on them playing games in foreign countries and like spreading that brand?
I think it's phenomenal. I think it's awesome. The people who think that we're going to station teams and eventually, put teams overseas, I think you guys you're looking way down the road. That's not going to be in the next 20 years even, I don't think. It's just it's not feasible financially, travel-wise. It doesn't make sense. You'd have to have 2 separate leagues almost, and the winner of those leagues would have to compete for like an international championship or something. But you can't have like 4 AFC teams and 4 NFC teams all of a sudden move to another continent. How do away games work every week, man? It's just a lot of logistics that have to be figured out for that to happen. However, love growing the fan base worldwide. Love making football more than just an American sport, or at least a sport that's not a sport that's celebrated in more places than America and watched in more places than America. I also think it's really cool to see, just how all the different fans there are wearing different jerseys and stuff. Like on TV, I love seeing different NFL throwback jerseys, totally unrelated to the players on the field, but they just think football is so cool, and I don't know. That part really geeks me out. I also think, though, if we're going to keep doing this, these overseas destinations have to foot some cost into bettering these facilities, because the grass on these fields can't keep being bad, and our players shouldn't be at any more risk of injury due to unlevel playing surfaces or anything than they are in their natural environments here in the States. I don't know. Especially if they want us to keep coming back. Now, if we hit up a country that has never inquired about having American football there, and we're like, hey, can we come put on a game? They're like, sure, yeah, it'd be great for us. I get they're not investing, but if it's a country like Brazil, you want us to keep coming back, invest some money there. That's what it takes.
I feel like most teams, though, just because it's the NFL and they have so much money that they don't know what to do with sometimes. At least I feel that way. I feel like they're definitely taking a grounds crew. That's got to be a thing.
Sure, you might take a grounds crew to prep it the week of or something, but I'm talking about a grounds crew that's there year round to maintain the field and totally redoing some of the playing surfaces. Because that was a big issue last year. I haven't heard or read much, and I didn't see too much in the game where it was an issue this year. So maybe they have gotten that fixed, but that's something that needs to be a continuous effort to make sure it's up to par, up to the standards. And you might even just, if you're a overseas country or city that wants to host an NFL game every year, you might just build an NFL stadium, because why not? And that's how you speed up the process of getting a team to move there, is you got to invest your own money. So a lot to come in that department. Nonetheless, I think it's super exciting, super cool. But we're going to get out of here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to like, share, subscribe. Text all your friends. Tell them to subscribe. I'll even take your mom as a subscriber. It doesn't matter. And flood the comments. Let's rock. Good night.